so we know that we are live. So welcome everyone. I don't know if I was live before, but now for sure I'm live. So yeah, again, this stream is entirely for creating a combat system for a type of RPG type of game, and we did some progress yesterday. We started the basics and the analysis of what we would need. I was following one of my flowcharts that I made about how the combat will work. And based on this, I created a manager class in C++, which some parts of it can be accessed by blueprints. Right, so that's where we are at right now. And if anyone have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Let me just put my protection just so I get in the zone. And what I wanted to do now, right now, if we just test this, we get two players near each other, and it says it's the player turn because the combat has started, right? So there are some things that need to happen in order for the combat to start. If you were here yesterday, the way I show you on how the combat will look like, it was something like this. Like, you will have the camera like this. You will have some options to do attacks in these parts, and you will have to use some resources. I called them tokens yesterday, and assign them to different actions. And when the action is fulfilled, then you actually do the attack, and you can reduce the life, uh, the health bar of the enemy. So that's pretty much it. What I want to do. But because I don't know if I'm gonna use cards, I don't know if I'm going to use just buttons, or even in the case of tokens, I don't know if I want to use um, instead of tokens, it could be stickers, it could be whatever I could think of, right? But the idea is to create something very generic that we can reuse or that we can iterate on top of very quickly. Right, so that's the idea for the stream today, because we have already created the manager. And where's my let me just open it through here, some C++ classes, and this is going to load Rider, which I'm using instead of Visual Studio. I like it a lot more, and this is kind of an educational type of project, so I mean, unless I want to start selling it, I can use it for free for no non-commercial projects. So here, what I want to do in the Combat Manager, I have defined certain functions, certain actions that my Combat Manager will handle. We created the Start Combat, which needed two things: reference to a pawn and a reference to, well, a pawn that will be the combatant, like the player, and the reference to the enemy combatant, which will be the, well, enemy. And we need to probably have some kind of transition, and I'm seeing that there's some echo that. Oh, I see. I see what's happening. Yeah. Now there shouldn't be any echo. That's that's on me. Thanks. Gracias por el comentario. So what I'm going to be doing is precisely that. Just look at the flow and start filling in the pieces that I need in order for it to work. For example, I want to show like these two characters in combat, right? Well, I need some kind of transition, which we can do very easily with the camera. But I mean, it's not that important. What is important is just to leave a space for the transition to happen, and then we can worry about uh, any kind of transition that we can put in that space, right? So here, when the combat starts, probably there should be a transition there. So I'll just add it here. And for this, I'm just using Obsidian, and you can create a canvas in it. So let me just, that's better. Start or do transition to combat. So in my project, whenever the combat starts, start the combat, we are initializing some values, which it's actually good to do. And I also want to trigger the transition. Now, depending on the type of transition, it can last a few seconds. Probably what I will want to do is I start initialization, the initialization of variables or certain things, and when this ends, my transition can end. In my case, I'll just, oops, I'll just add a function that I can call later on and worry about that later on. So uh, do I could probably use a transition out of combat. So I'll just call it do transition. That's good. And let's not forget to add an implementation to it, just so later on I can use it. Right. So there will be a transition. Our camera should position itself in a way that I can actually see my players. And to do that, first I need to position the players. And hello, anyone that is has currently entered the stream. Right. So we have two characters here. I have a collision sphere that whenever you overlap with it, we have a message that says it's the player turn. So something is happening when we collide with the other character. I just need to put those two characters in a certain position here in the map. So it's just a matter of determining if I'm going to teleport them to another place in the map and just start doing things there, or if I'm going to respect the location that they currently have in the map. To keep things simple, for now I could just create a camera that looks at the location, and then through code make them look towards each other. So that's what I'm gonna do, right? I'm gonna respect the enemy's position, and I'm gonna move the player to something more appropriate. I should handle that either in the transitions or whenever we are setting up the values before combat, which I mean would make more sense for me because transitions should be just a visual thing. Here I probably should receive some time of seconds or whatever that I think that the transition will last, or better yet, I can do a start transition and end transition. Maybe we have a fade in, fade out type of situation. So here is where I'm gonna set up my values. Because those values are mostly in the editor here in the level, I will want to override these C++ functionality just so I have a little bit more of a easier time handling this. So for that, here in the initialization, I'll just put it as blueprint callable. The category will be combat, but not only that, what I also want to do is to actually set up a way to override this. So it will be a blueprint native event. This means that I can implement it through C++ and I can also override it in Blueprint. So Blueprint native event, Blueprint color, is it? That's all right. Oh, I was missing Blueprint color. I was missing the, oh, this doesn't actually needs to be Blueprint callable because I don't really want to call it in Blueprints because this is being called by this other function called the start combat. Right, and it's giving me an error because this implementation, I do need to set it up as an implementation. With that, we can compile. And from there, we can add whatever we want whenever we actually override the manager in Blueprints. Now, something that I do need to remember is that this manager, I think I didn't, I haven't created a Blueprint class that is going to work as the actual manager. So if I create a Blueprint class from here, then I need to create the blueprint in the game mode. Oh, it's a lot of extra steps. I'll do it easier, I think. Here in the initialization, I do have access to these values. Oh, no, I don't have access to these values because I'm not saving them anywhere. So let me just save those variables somewhere. And they are just bounds. Which IDE am I using? This is Rider. Rider is the one that, from JetBrains, and it's free for non-commercial purposes, which I'm doing this to learn. So, I mean, if eventually this turns into a game that I can sell, for sure I'll start paying the license. I used to pay this whenever this IDE released, and well, it was well spent money. Right, so we have here the T object. Was it reference? Pointer. A bound. This will be my combatant. And this will be the enemy combatant. And when we start the fight, which is here, I'm gonna save the here. I'll just call this new, just so they don't have the same name. It can get very confusing. And let me just save those values. Enemy combatant, new enemy combatant. Now with these values saved here in the initialization, I can start moving them around. So for the combatant, oh, that's not what I want. I can do a set actor location. And here is gonna ask me for the new location, which is just a vector. Yeah, right. F vector in location. Yep. Now, how can I get the actual position? Well, I don't know. I mean, the manager doesn't know where my character is, or what's the relationship between these two characters, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get it from the enemy, right? So from the enemy, I can get the location. And from this location, I can start modifying it a little bit. For example, just a super naive implementation. And let me just create a variable for this called uh, new combatant location. And here I'll just put that, just so it's a little bit more readable. So here I can probably add, can I? A vector, and let's say, oh, in X it will be 200. Something like this. Super naive implementation, right? Oh, there's an echo. Oh, I have the stream open. Oh, that's my bad. That's why there was an echo. I didn't know that I have the stream open in another tab. Right. So now, when we play, when we start, that happens, right? And it's only going to happen once because I'm checking the actual location, the actual times we are starting the combat. And if the combat has started, it cannot start twice. So there we have it, kind of. Now, the thing about this is that I want the two um, the 2 pounds, the enemy and the actor, to look at each other and to also face the camera. Right now we're using a top-down type of camera. So yeah, it's not exactly quite right. So first, let me come back here. Oh, and here, just so I don't forget, I'll call the do transition. It's not doing anything, but it's a good idea to not forget to do the actual transition. So here, let's just first rotate the the enemy combatant. So it's looking to the left of the camera. So here, enemy combatant, set actor rotation, and we need to put something inside of it. How am I gonna get the actual rotation? From the camera. How do I get the camera? Well, that's the thing, right? So we need to get from the player, we need to get the controller, and from the controller we can get the camera. As simple as that. So to do that, in C++, in Blueprints is very easy. I do remember in C++, I'm super rusty in C++. Again, this is also educational for me. So something that I was doing yesterday, which actually was a very nice thing to do, and also especially if you're not that knowledgeable in C++, is using the AI uh, developer assistant. So for example, I want to ask in C++, how do I get the player, the player's control rotation from an actor? Something like that. Super simple question. I can also look at a C++ API reference, but this is supposed to be trained on the C++ API reference, so might as well use it, right? So it's giving me these steps. So I need a controller. I need to get the controller from the character, and from there I can get the control rotation. This much I know because I'm fairly used to using the Unreal Engine gameplay framework, but I wanted to. Oh, here it is. Gameplay statics, get player controller, get world. This is the one that I forgot about. Yeah, yeah. So let's just get it. This U gameplay statics. Why is it? I probably need to implement something. Include some library. Gameplay static. Play declared in gameplay static. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Oh, it did it for me. Well, it's the same. Okay, yeah. It was this one. This library. So we're getting the player controller. I really don't like variables that you cannot easily read. So if you, it's like, oh, what's PC? Like personal computer? No, player controller. Yeah, you have a naming convention problem. So here we got the player controller. From the player controller, if this is actually valid, then I want to player controller get the control rotation. And this control rotation, which should be a rotator, right? F rotator, that's right. Yeah, so I'm going to declare an F rotator here. Player control rotation. Why can't I name it like this? I need to assign F rotator. Yeah. So I want to save this to my new variable, because if for whatever reason I don't find a player controller, which should not be the case, never. But if for whatever reason I can't find it, then at least I can use this rotation, which should be the 001, and things won't break. From here, from this control rotation, now I can set it up to ask for the either forward rotation or the right rotation, right? Forward, right. Oh, this is on me because of using Blueprint so much. One comment says, hello, how can you learn to animate like The Witcher 4 animation 3 character? What? You need to follow and learn animation concepts. Like the most basic thing is the 12 rules of animations. And yeah, you can go from there. You don't really need to know the Unreal to learn to animate. You can animate inside Unreal, don't get me wrong. The tools exist, they just need to mature a little bit more. But yeah, how can I get the forward rotation, excuse me, the right rotation vector from a F rotator? And someone yesterday was asking like, oh, why don't you teach C++? Well, this is why. I'm really not confident on it. To get the right rotation vector from an F rotator, use the F rotation matrix and extract the unit axis. Okay. Someone says buy a suit. Yeah, yeah, buying a mocap suit to animate. Yeah, that would really work. But you will still need to clean up the animation, so it's still work that you need to learn how to do. You know what? I'll just do it quick and dirty. The set rotation F rotator, and I'll get 0, 0, 0. And how would I know? Well, my camera is always pointing this way, so if I make it look minus 19, see? Well, that's a bingo for me. It's not roll. This one is Joe? Okay, I can roll with that. Okay, minus 90 was the was the place. Here I'll just put to do. This is classic programmer stuff. use the camera rotation to set up the rotation of the bounce. For the combatant, it's just a matter of um, I'll just here in, should it be X? I don't think it should be X, but I will get the enemy combatant forward rotation. Get actor forward vector. This is the one that I want. And from the forward vector, if my vector is looking that way, I want to multiply it a certain amount towards that location, right? So I'm going to multiply it by that 200 that I had there. And this is what I'm gonna add to the enemy combat actor location. And with that, I should have the enemy rotating to where I want it to be, the character starting from here, but it's in this direction. I'm adding plus 200, and so it should be here. So let's check it out. Yeah. And I just need to rotate the character a little bit. So let's combatant, set actor rotation, and here it will be the opposite of um, this forward vector. If I just put it like this, it's going to be looking towards the the, towards the same direction, right? So I just want to negate it. Can I negate it through here? Nope. I think I can just multiply it by -1 and it should be fine. Now here I'm getting an error because it's asking for either a rotator or a quad, and I believe the rotator. What are the overrides of this? Nope. Nope. Double impeach yaw. Let me ask if there's a function that I can use. How can I change a unit direction vector to an F rotator? Because Unreal has a lot of useful functionality that already exists, and I don't want to rewrite the Bible or reinvent the wheel. See? So if I do this, What? Rotation. Oh, yeah, it exists. I think this is exactly what I want, actually. Let me check. Let it compile and let us test. Yeah, it worked. I moved around, but it did work. There it is. Is this AI chat to help you call built into the UA5 website? Yes. You can access it if you go to Unreal Engine.com. You can go to Learning and you will find it here, Developer Assistant. And you will find all the chats also here. And it's very useful, actually. I'm, as you can see, I'm not really just copying and pasting whatever it gives me. It's like, oh, you can actually do this? Great. If you want it inside the editor, which I think I have not enabled that plugin, but is AI Assistant, you can enable it here and then you will get a window inside the engine. Does it work with blueprints? I mean, you could ask it, how can I do that with blueprints? It's not gonna give you, I mean, let me spoil it for you, but it's not gonna give you like the notes in a visual way. It's going to tell you, oh, you can find the normalized vector, and this is a node, then convert it, and it will give you alternatives. It will it will try to give you like the graph in this way, but as you can see, it could be a lot better. It could give you like the actual graph that you could copy and paste, but in this case, no. This is as much as it can help you with blueprints, but it will give you a good idea on what blueprints to look for. So I think it's still useful. Right, so now they are definitely too close. And here, let me just put maybe 800. Yeah, it's cool. I agree with that. With the chat being cool, yeah. I mean, as I was saying before, you can look for the information. Oh, it's too much. You can look for the information on the API in online. Like you can search for the nodes if they exist. But if this is gonna search for you and do that work more quickly than you, why not use it? Right. So with this, we are positioning our players where we want them to be in order for that combat to happen. Right. So in my case, starting a player turn means that my player will need to do some actions. The way that this game is going to work is by having different gear. And let me just draw the example just so it's easier to understand. So let's say I want to attack, right? And I will have like my gear list. Maybe here it's a sword, This one is a shield. This one is my armor, or whatever it could be. And this could be even a backpack, right? So let's say this is a backpack. As you can see, I'm not an artist, not by a long shot. And this gear is will be the things that will provide the actions that I can do. So the combat system in this case doesn't really need to do anything. It just need to wait. And it just need to register every time this enemy or this player does an action. Because whenever it does an action, it will grant the enemy an action. So if you do 3 actions in your turn, the enemy will do 3 actions in their turn. And that's how it's going to work in this type of turn-based system that I'm creating. Like want to I want it to be a little bit different than just the normal formula of an RPG. Right? So to do that, here in my manager, I really don't need to do anything else for now because I'm assigning the turn. And in that turn, well, the player can't do anything. It will be all about the actions that the player will be able to have. Right? So, what actions can the the player do? Well, again, it depends on the gear. So, what I need to do right now, which I haven't done now that I think about it, is design how that gear will work, right? I have this class diagram that I created when I was prototyping this game. I talked about prototyping yesterday, and I don't want to uh, reiterate on whatever I just already said before, but pretty much what I said is that I made a super quick proof of concept without regard of any good practices. I just hard coded anything and everything just so I have something playable and see if the idea works. And for me, it worked. And based on that, I deleted the prototype and I kept the ideas that worked, and whatever it didn't work, then I just deleted. Right? So this is the approximate class diagram of the whole project that I came up with, which it will definitely change for sure. For example, these weapons, I was thinking like, oh, only the weapons will have actions, but I think it's more interesting if all the gear has actions, right? For that, if I, whoops, if I, let me just think about how the gear will work, and let me just open this to start drawing something, because I usually just use like this little board, and I draw things here. I mean, I could try to show you how I do it here, but I think I can also draw it in this software. I mean, it's fine. So let's say we have the gear, and this gear is a sword. This gear needs to do something. It can have actions. So let's say that this sword has an slash type of action. And this slash will have an amount, a cost related to it. So if we're talking about tokens, it could have like, I don't know, some physical type of token associated with the cost. And let's say it costs two of these, or it could cost one. Let's start with one. With this cost, the description of the action should do something, right? So let's say we have damage. Just like that. So this is one of the ways that my gear could interact. Like, it will have an icon, it will have a description, and it will have, well, excuse me, it will have a name, an action name. Maybe we could put multiple actions inside of a gear. Could be, why not? And it will do something. It needs to do something. Otherwise, why do I have it, right? So let's think about it in terms of programming, which object-oriented programming just means that we are defining certain aspects of reality as objects. Objects that can encapsulate logic to do something. In this case, I want to encapsulate the fact that I could have gear that can do things, right? So for that, I will want to create, well, let me just close this. Can I minimize this? Yeah. I will want to create a class called gear. And the project name is Project Hourglass, so let's just put it before. And inside this gear, I will want to have things like the gear name, and this will probably just be a text. Things like, what else could I have? If only I had an action, then I could define an action here. Probably I will want an array of actions. So array of action, and the actions are the things that will determine the name, the cost, and what it does, right? So probably I don't want to create actions inside gears. I want it to be another type of class called gear actions. This will be the action name. I will want the cost of the action, or I can call it action cost. And I want the result. How would I call this? Action description. And the action, what's the name I'm looking for? This damage -4. I mean, it's the description, but probably the description could be like do damage to the enemy, right? And effect. Let's call it effect. The action effect. Right? Here we will have an array of PH actions. And because they are linked, how did I did it? Yeah, like this. Uses. Yeah, like this. And I just read the comment, stat array, actions, attack types, etc. Yes, you're right on the money. So let's keep finding like, oh, what's the variable type of this? The cost, right? I don't know. For now, the action description, this will be a text. The action effect could probably be its own class, really. If I think long and hard about it, could probably be its own class. Yeah, so I can mix and match different types of um, actions with different types of effects, right? So let me just put this a little bit to the side. So we have two things that we need to think about. So the actions costs and the actions effects. Gear action effect. This should just be very plain and simple. Just I'll just give it a name and be done with it. And I'll just copy this. And for the action cost, if we go to how the, where was it? Combat flow? I mean, the initial idea is to pull out tokens, and those tokens will be like the way that you will pay for these actions. So we will need to create those tokens, right? If I remember correctly, I already had these combat tokens here, and a class, right? So let me just copy and paste this here. This will be our combat tokens. I'll just delete this, and I will need some symbols, right? Like token types, if you will. Combat token types. Type. Type. Token type. And hello to everyone that just entered the the stream. And this durability thing is like an idea I have. Maybe the tokens could have durability. Why not? And the token type that I will have here will be like this. Oh, why is this like that? Yeah, better. And here, the token types that I determined that could exist was like physical attack token, magical attack token, special attack, fleet token, critical token, and health token. So let's just add them. This will be non health, physical attack, um, magic attack, was it? Magical attack, special attack, flee, and what else? And luck, critical token. Yeah, critical. Now you may be wondering why, dude? Why are you complicating yourself so much? Because part of being a programmer is designing the actual game. I could probably cram everything here in one class and be done with it. But then when I want to change things, then it will get really hard. So that's why I'm doing it like that. So in this case, I have a combat token. This I'm gonna create it as an actor because I had the idea to add some durability to it. So that's why I remember like we had like durability here, right? If later on I add it, I will add it all obviously to my cluster diagram. This is a diagram that is constantly evolving. So now we can do something like this. Um, the action cost will be an array of it doesn't necessarily need to be a combat, I mean that combat token class. It can just be the actual enumerator. If I want to make my life a little bit easier. So I'll just break this and I'll just connect it like this. Uses uses uses. And with this in mind, my gear will be able to do some actions. That actions can do any type of effects. It can has any type of cost. And later on, when we actually implement the tokens, I mean, we can use the same enumerator. So what do I need to create? This enumerator will probably exist inside the gear action class. So let's create the gear and the gear action class. Finally, we can touch some code, right? And Mr. Rain say, buenas way. ¿Qué tal? Mr. Rain. Conocido. ¿Conocida? ¿Conocide? ¿Qué tal? So let's create the class. Let's create the class. It's very easy. Tools, new C++ class. And you probably want actors. You want to spawn them. You want them to be managed by the garbage collection that Unreal has. So an actor is just fine. So an actor, it will be th, how did I call it? Gear, and then I'll create the gear actions. So gear, ¿a quién le explicas? ¿Andas en otra plataforma en directo? Sí, en YouTube. Que ahí está la mayoría de gente. En Twitch nadie me conoce. I'm just explaining to Twitch chat that no one knows me in Twitch. And then I need the class for the gear action. No, this one, gear actions. Let's create it. So let's just wait for the project to actually add the classes. This is the like the waiting game. And finally, I want the gear actions effect class. That should be it. Yeah. Eh, Pregunta, ¿será gratis ese sistema de combate? No, no estoy haciendo un sistema de combate para vender. Es para un juego que estoy haciendo. Great. So with these classes finally created, here in gear, where was it that we were going to create our enumeration? This one. Let's create it on gear actions. We should create it here. Enum. And how was it? Where did I create the other enumerator? Ah, in the combat manager. Enum class, yeah. I always forget this stuff. Programming is just all about copy and pasting. And we will call this copy. Oh, descargar cualquier cosa en Unreal es demora su tiempo. Right, with this enumerator, let's just add this. I didn't create it for nothing. So none, that's fine. I find it like a good practice to always start with none. Why? Because by default, it's going to find the none value. And that none value lets you know, hey, you have not initialized this variable, so it's a good idea to have. The next one is health. The next one is physical. Let me just duplicate this and do the copy and pasting magic. And do the same for the other. This display name is what you will see in the editor. So it doesn't really matter if you put a space there because it's just for show. There we have it, an enumerator that we can use inside Unreal. And just to define it, like it's very important for you to add this so you can use it with the editor. You can, and the actual framework knows that this is an enumerator that you can use. We set it as an enumerator class. We give it a name, and we give the type of variable that is holding, which is just a number. Here, because it's a Unreal enumerator, we can give it a display name that we can later show in the editor, and we can modify it later. So it's a good idea to always set up a display name, especially sometimes these enumerators, people, I just see that they just put 1 and 2 and be done with it. Don't do that. Just try to name your things um, as best as you can. Is there any question? Modo pobre internet, pero PC de la NASA. Oh, ya quisiera una buena PC. Esta ya está sufriendo. My PC eventually, Unreal just gives up on me, but I just need to reopen it again and it will work. Right, so we have the enumerator. We want to use it in the gear actions. So let's just define this. Again, I'll just copy. This is the gear actions. I'll paste them here, even though it's gonna give me problems, but no biggie. Right, so we have an action name. For names, you don't really want to use strings, because strings, as the name says, is just a string of characters. But because the variable type is a string, you can modify them. You can, oh, at this point in the string, I want to split it, or add a spacebar, or add another character, right? It's just a string of characters. With a name, you don't want that, because you don't really want to modify the name. You want to actually make it a variable that can be localized very easily. So that's where, if I was in Blueprint and I was, let's say, in this blueprint, I would create a variable of the type text, because this can be easily localized. Look, you can tell it, hey, localize this, and whenever we run the localization tool, it will give me like, oh, remember that this text can or needs to be localized, right? So I want to use that text variable. What I don't remember is how to define it here in in C++. So again, I'll just ask my powerful friend in C++, how can I define a variable of the type text? Yeah. Let's see if there is any other question. Como no le entiendo el C++, me ando matando con el IA porque a veces me hace todo mal. XD hasta le regano para que veas así de mal. Me llevo con la IA. La IA es una buena herramienta para aprender, así que intenta no preguntarle cómo hacer las cosas, sino que te enseñe. You just need to ask it not to do it for you, but to teach you how to do it. So there we have it, ftext. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I need this. Oh, okay, I can do that. Ftext action name. Then we want an array of combat token types. So the combat token types are this one. So I can use it here, and I could put token type, but now I want an array. I know how to make arrays, like here, like doing these symbols, but I want to know if Unreal has its way of doing arrays. I want an array for this variable. And let's see what what's going to tell me. It says the array, and that's a thing that I was forgetting about. This one seems correct. This action name also should be a U property. Category. I'll call it gear. Or better yet, I'll call it combat gear. I don't remember if this was supposed to be with a space or without space. I'll just leave it like this. I have the token types, and it should be whoops, tokens needed for action. And finally, another action description. I mean, another text. And we need the gear actions effect. So I'll want a reference. I mean, two ways of doing this. It could be a reference that then I will need to create the action effects, or better yet, it could just be a variable to the class, and I just need to define classes, and those classes like will have those things that will actually do the thing. For now, I'm not sure yet, so I'll just leave it here as a comment. Effects will work. Not bad, not terrible. And let's just delete this. Right, so we have the gear actions. These effects, I mean, it's fine. Oh, and I'm receiving a call. Just a second. Oh, and I need to open the door. Be just a sec. Just a minute. let's finish this. Let's finish this. Where was I? Oh, the gear, the gear. For the gear, we need this, because it's the gear name and the action that the gear can actually do, right? So let's just put it here somewhere. I want text, gear name, and then we will have some array of actions that my character, or well, that my gear can make. Now, what I'm doing right now is a super naive implementation of everything, and hopefully this compiles. Why? Because whenever you're working with Unreal, you want it to be very, what's the word? Decoupled, very modular. And this way of just creating actors and setting up the actions like this, I mean, it's fine. There's not that much of an issue, right? Creating an actor during runtime is not gonna kill my performance, even if I put like 10 or 20 gear at the same time. It's not gonna kill my performance. But what I do want to create would be a way to game designers, for them to be very easy to create these actions, for them to be very easy to add more effects. And in order to do that, I need to use some data structures. For those data structures, it would be either a good idea to use data assets, or to use data tables. In this specific case, I would much prefer a data asset. Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it more. Because inside this data asset, it will be very easy for me to just, for example, core, let me just create my folder for the gear. And let's say I create a gear for the sword. So gear, this will be sword, blueprint, gear, sword. Just like that. Very simple. Inside of it, I can choose how I will want to represent this sword. But what is more important are the default values that I can find here. Which, if I search for the name, should the name be here? Did I set up the name? Nope, I did not set up the name as a view property. That's my bad. That's my bad. Blueprint read write edit anywhere, category combat gear. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. It has been successful. Now it will be just a matter of searching combat, gear name, and I can put here sword. it will be a good idea to initialize this value here in the constructor. And in the constructor, we can put gear name ftext undefined because I have not set up the name. Now here, the best way of modifying this is if I come here. Oh, okay, this is my gear. Let's just add uh, uh, like an array of data assets for the actions that this sort will be able to make. So to do that, it would be a good idea to create the data asset for the actions. And yeah, instead of having it as a class, I would need to actually set it up as a data structure. So whenever I create a data asset for that, where is it? Here. I should be able to actually use it here. So let's do that. I want to pick a class for the data asset instance. I don't remember how to do that again, so let's just ask it. How to create a class in C++ to use it as a for a data asset instance. And it's gonna think about it. And I don't know if there's a question. ¿Cómo muevo un proyecto a otro disco? O sea, si tengo un disco lleno, ¿cómo lo muevo de un disco a otro? O sea, lo mandé al C y me va a llenar sí o sí si sigo así. Es sencillo mover un proyecto. Busca dónde está. Si ves la carpeta content, ya solamente sales una y esta es la carpeta del proyecto. Lo copias y pegas a otro lado y ya está. Solo asegúrate de que cierres Unreal antes de hacerlo. Right, so that's for that question. Okay, here it is. To create a C++ class for use as a data asset instance in Unreal Engine 5.6, follow these steps. My data asset, core minimal, use primary data asset, this is fine, uClass blueprint type, public, display name, some value. I mean, it seems very straightforward. So let's test it. And probably the gear could actually be a data asset. Should it? Should it be a data asset? Let's think about it. And let's think. If this um, like how would the player equip something? If I have the player here, would they be able to find it on the floor? Like, oh, here's a weapon. And then when they get it, what am I assigning them? Like The actor itself, that doesn't sound that good. That probably would be better to assign them only the information, right? Because I'm not gonna show it, or will I? I don't know. Yeah, because I don't know. Maybe it's a good idea for this to be an actor. Yeah, it's a good idea for it to be an actor. Ah. Yeah, so I'll just put the actions as data assets. That's what makes more sense for me right now. Tools, new C++. What did did it tell me? Primary data asset. So let's just use primary data asset. Next. These will be my gear actions. PH gear actions data asset, and later on I can delete the other class. I mean, it's not no no harm done there. So gear actions data assets, just so I know that this is a data asset. Yeah, let's create it. What time is it actually? Ah, it's fine. Great. So with this data asset, now I can start adding the things that I already added in my gear actions. And what was the recommendation? Public, uProperty, read only. Yeah, read only. Because during runtime, I don't want to modify whatever is inside this data asset. So makes sense. Public. Here I need to add the combat types, which doesn't exist. I mean, it exists on these gear actions um, class, but probably I will end up deleting this. So I need to put, I need to find a better place for this, definitely. I don't want to put it on the combat manager because the combat may not rely on on the tokens. Can I put it in the same data asset? I don't think it's a good idea, but let me see if I can. Otherwise, I can change it from location to another location. I mean, not an issue. Gear actions. Let me just delete the gear actions for now. It should give me a problem for this one, so I'll get ahead of the issue. Right now, is this fine? Give me the errors. Yes. Oh, Oh, what's this? Now the error makes sense. I didn't saw that. And while this is happening, let me check if there's any question. O sea, ya ¿qué? Creo un proyecto desde cero, lo mando a otro disco, ese nuevo proyecto y ya de ahí copio del otro y lo pego nomás. O sea, dentro de ese nuevo. No crees otro proyecto. O sea, si quieres copiar el proyecto, solo copia todo el folder al nuevo lugar. Si quieres copiar ciertas partes del proyecto, por ejemplo, este blueprint, o una carpeta, o toda la carpeta, le pones clic derecho y migras. Y ahí sí tienes que crear otro proyecto en blanco y seleccionas lo que se va a migrar y eliges el otro content folder del proyecto y con eso ya estás. Great. And here in the gear sort, let's first see if now I can create the data assets that I was mentioning. Gear action. This will be a data asset, gear action. Could be confused as gameplay ability, but I'm not using that system. Doesn't make much sense to use it for this project. Gear action. Uh, let's just call it slash one. Yeah, or just a slash. Inside of this, I can define the action name slash I can define the action script description, do slashing damage, just damage to the opponent, and the tokens needed for the action. Could be one physical attack token and maybe a special attack token, whatever you want, you can put it here. Right? That's cool. That's cool. I like it. I like it a lot. With this data asset, here in the gear sort, I will need to find a way to actually add this data asset. And yeah, I just need to come here in my gear. This will be a T array. And I will use the how is it called here? Unreal. This one. This will be the gear actions. The property here, just like that. And this does not exist, right? Let me check the now I want to create an array of these data assets in another class. actor class. But for sure, I need to include the include ph gear actions that asset. And I will probably need to add this. Probably, I'm guessing. But it's more than likely that I will need to do something like that. Oh, or just use this one. Yeah, that's true. Instead of just using a raw pointer, this is the thing that I was missing. This is the way that Unreal handles the pointers from Unreal 5 onwards whenever you want to declare them as U properties. So now let's save, let's compile, and whenever this finishes, I will have the gear actions. I will be able to add any data asset of that specific type, which here I have this slash one. Now my sword can actually do something if I manage to add it to my character, right? Which, I mean, it's a lot of setup at the start of any type of combat system. At the start of the stream, we made it so we can position our characters, and then we will need to list all the gear options that my character has. And from there, we can do more crazy things later on. But it's a good start. It's a good start. What did change here is that here, these gear actions is a data asset, right? Did I call it like that? Yeah, gear actions data asset. These action effects could also be their own data asset if you ask me, because inside the data assets I can do some, I can do stuff, right? Inside data assets, can I run code that modify the gameplay? I remember you can. I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that. But this is just entering like the data-driven type of gameplay. No, data assets in Unreal Engine are primarily data containers and are not designated to run or own gameplay modifying code directly. They store configurable, mostly static data that actors and components use. Best practice, put gameplay logic and modification inside actors, component, or systems. Use data assets to provide parameters, configuration, or data tables for these gameplay classes. Okay, so the gear effects may need to be actors, and I would need to set up the class. So whenever it happens, we create the actor does its thing, and then it gets destroyed, and or it could get reused depending on how it will work. So I mean, the gear actions effect being here is good. And I want to reference the class, and I don't know if there's another gotcha like the T object pointer in C++. I want to define this class as a variable, not the instance object, but the class. I'm guessing here in the asset, I will need to add, what did I call it? PH, come on, actor, gear, actions, effect. Add include. uh, Action effect class. Now, I don't want the instance reference. This is it. This subclass off. That's the thing that I need. And yeah, I want the same things here. That way I can create action effect classes in blueprints in a way that they are very easy to do. They just need to get like, oh, who is doing the action, who is the action affecting, and if I need to do damage, it's like, oh, apply damage. That's it. Very, very simple. Right. So what else? What else do I need here? Well, I do need to compile. Hola, ¿qué tal? Hello, everyone. This is mainly English stream, but if you want to ask anything in Spanish, I can answer. And here we have it. Now in my data set, I will have the action effect class, and we can select, if we had created more, we could select some gear actions, right? And let's say, for example, just so we have something here, we want to do damage, right? A simple effect. We do need to create our gear effect, gear action effect. I'll just call it do damage. And here, eventually, let's say that I will have an event that will get a pound, and I will apply damage to set pound. Right? Right now, this won't work because I'm not connecting anything to this. So this parameter will never be filled. So it won't work. But let's just say that that's how it's going to work. Here in the data asset, I could select that class. And now this action will do damage. As simple as that, because, well, I will need to define somewhere that whenever I do the action, like get gear actions, and I'll get this one, and I'll get, oh, they are not public. I would need to, oh, it says live coding. Yeah, I need to close my editor and open it again after compiling for me to get it. But from here, I could get the class that will do the damage, and then from there spawn it, do its thing, and let it destroy itself. Right? That's the generic thing that we are creating, or well, that I'm creating here, and that's an idea that you can follow in your own combat system. Now, for the actual implementation, I have run out of time, but at least I have the 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 skeleton, like the actual flow of how everything or how this will be working. Like we have the gear, it will be an actor, this will be a data asset, this data asset will hold the class reference, and yeah, this gear action effect, and this probably should be an array of of actions. Yeah, it should probably be something like this, because maybe we want to add damage but also add some poison or something like that. I don't know, but it's a good idea to be ready for any type of situation. Yeah, so I have been sat down long enough, so I think I will leave it like this. Now that we have this data asset, we can add different types of damage. And last thing I want to add, here I can add the base class, like the gear action effect. You may not want to add this, or you may not want to expose um, your designers to this, because we're humans, we make mistakes, and probably this will be a great mistake. Having just telling it to use the gear action effect. To avoid that, in C++, you can define the gear actions. Where is it? The base class as an abstract. And by doing this, whenever you compile your class, it won't show up in the dropdown, and avoid some some mistakes induced by people that are not careful with your project. So now it says none. What? What? It should says it should say this blueprint. Mm, let me just close the editor, save everything, recompile, and let's see if we have the same issue. Let's see, let's open the project. And the project should have been open by now. Let me open the data asset. There we have it. Now it it's showing the not the abstract class, but the actual class that is doing something. Um, so I will leave it here. I know that visually we haven't advanced that much, but the base of the systems are the thing that we need to always be looking at, and not so much as the visual stuff, because the visual stuff can change uh, very quickly from one day to another. So yeah, take care guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, in C++, I wasn't expecting this. Let me go grab a coffee and an IDE. Oh, I was just finishing the stream, but yeah, take care.